welcome to my channel, All Things Logic. I'm Jeremy Hawes. Tonight I'm going to talk to you guys about a level meter and where you can find it in Logic Pro and how to use it basically. A level meter is like a VU meter. A VU meter, analog one back in the day, had the little hands that go back and forth to tell you how loud your signal is or how quiet it is. And it's this, like, I use this every single day, all day long in my recordings and my mixing and mastering process. And it's like a must, because if your signal is too hot, too loud, it has the sound, it has nowhere to go, the signal, and it will cut it off and it digitally distorts, and that you can't work with. You might as well just re-record it all over again. If you're sending your stuff out for someone else to mix and master, sound engineer or something, they're going to send it back to you and tell you to re-record the whole track, and that sucks. If it's too quiet, your plugins won't react correctly to the signal. So yeah, it's just like I said, a must. But tonight I'm just show you guys where you can go find that in your plugins, how to set it up, and how to record a decent signal with it. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started. Yeah. All right, guys, if you guys want to follow along, I've got Logic Pro open here. This is a project I've been working on for a while now. It's called All Bets Are Off. I'll be showing you how to use a level meter with one of these tracks, a DI track, a guitar DI track here, to show you how a level meter works basically. But it works, level meter works the same with any track, any instrument, vocals, drums, bass, guitars, that kind of stuff. So, and this is a song I've been working on for a while now. This is like one of the first versions I was working on. I actually have it finished somewhere else, but this is the easiest one so I can kind of take it apart and show you how a level meter works. It's kind of like a punk rock song. I'm gonna hit play so you can kind of hear what it sounds like with everything together. So yeah. All right, so you get the idea. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to single out the guitar track I'm going to be using to show you how to use a level meter, and here it is right here by itself. I'm going to turn that up, and I'll leave it like that in a minute. Okay, so what I did is I already went and put a bunch of plugins on this, even though I haven't done any master track processing or anything, and I'll explain all this later on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off all these plugins right now. Turn off all these plugins so you can hear just the DI track without any plugins. There's just the pure signal. Okay, it's just a guitar playing by itself. Okay, straight with my guitar right into my audio interface, straight plugged into that. That's it. Okay, no effects on it, no amp sims or anything. So what we're going to do now is just disregard all these plugins. I got them all turned off. We're going to go to the very top here. Actually, I can put it behind there because the plugins aren't on, but it's just a good practice. We're just gonna, you know, I could just get rid of all these, but I'm not going to. Let me go up to the very top here and see that it lights up a little bit. Left click there, go down to metering, go over to level meter mono. Okay, click on that. There is your level meter. Okay, there's two ways you can look at this level meter. You can do it horizontal, like I learned it this way, or you can go over to here and do vertical. A lot of people like it vertical. So when you hit play, you'll see it do it this vertical. Okay, I personally got used to it doing it like this. Whoops, my bad. What did I just do? Okay, let me change this. Okay, and I like to put it, you know, like right with the track. Okay. So here is the peak signal here, okay? But I always like to have my RMS showing too. And so, right, so let me hit play and you'll see it. This is a peak signal, the orange, and the orange is yellow. Your RMS is in blue, okay? Now, let me explain the difference between RMS and peak. Peak is what we're worried about, okay? Especially when just laying down the tracks. RMS will come into play later when you're adding plugins to it and all that stuff. RMS is where your signal is at all the time, and peak is where the highest part it jumps up to, and that's what's important when you're laying down a track and when you're adding plugins and stuff like that. You don't want it to get too hot, your signal, okay? You don't want it to go too hot, because it will have nowhere for the sound to go. It will it will clip it and digitally distort, and that sounds bad. There's no way to fix that. It's not a good distortion. You know, so if you're sending your stuff out to a mixing engineer or sound engineer, they will send it back to you and tell you, sorry, I can't work with it. You got to re-record the track over again. Okay, so it's just a good practice to get that signal right away at a good spot, a healthy spot. And you don't want it too quiet, because then your plugins won't react to that signal the way they're supposed to. Okay, now there is a way, if it's too quiet, you can always go turn it up with clip gain or automations, but it's just better to get the first take, or get it down pretty in the sweet spot, so you don't have to do that later as much. Okay, so, but like I said, RMS is something you worry about later. I just like to have it there to see what's going on. And a healthy spot for, like I said, don't worry about this right now, but a healthy spot for RMS to be around is -22 or -20 to -18, -16. Now, and that's what you'll worry about that more after we got plugins on that, but we're not doing that today. But peak, this is important. You want your peak signal to not go past -6. You don't want it -5, -4. You really don't want it past -3. Okay. But it can be anywhere between, you can record a track that sits between -10 and -6, maybe -9, -6. Good healthy spot, okay? It's okay if it jumps a little bit too, I mean, it's not the end of the world if it goes to -5.9 or -5.5, but it's just a good idea to try to stick above -6, okay? And like I used to try to get things as close as possible, and it's just almost because your guitar, your bass guitar or whatever, your vocals especially, they jump like you'll see when I first hit play, it starts off, the peak is at -10 something, and then jumps to -6.8. Okay, and so and it'll jump all through the track like that. Okay, you just want to make sure that throughout your whole track that it doesn't go past -6. Okay, let me hit play. See. Also, sometimes this number gets stuck. So say it's playing, you can click on this number and it'll unstick it or refresh it. You know, it's telling you where it is at now. It'll jump again. See, it jumps all over the place, but it'll stick at the lowest that it jumps to. Okay, which we'll just say for now it's this very first track right here. Okay, or this where it jumps there. We'll say that's the lowest part. Okay, which is, I think it is. So -6.8 is totally good. It's totally healthy. Okay, that's where it dropped down to. Okay, so this is a good track. As long as it doesn't go past -6, you're good. You're golden. And the reason, I don't know if I already said this, but the reason you don't want it past -6, when you start adding plugins onto it, it's gonna get louder and louder. Even though you could turn down your plugins to make it match your signal. But as you're adding plugins, and then when you start to do mixing later, and you add and you're doing master track processing and all that stuff, then the reason you want it not past -6, you want that extra headroom to work with, because later on it's going to get louder down to -3, and that's okay when you start adding plugins on. But for now, for the original signal, you don't want it any louder than -6. Okay. So, and I like mine to be, I like it to be around -7, because that gives me a lot of room to work with plugins also, okay? Even though you could turn down the master output on plugins, okay? So that's what you want to aim for when using a level meter. So, as you can see, this is a healthy signal. And I can show you even with, let me turn this off, we can go to bass real quick. I'll show you with the bass real quick. Let me put this. I can keep the plugins on like I can there. You put the level meter before the plugins, and the signal, it won't be affected by all your plugins. So like I can turn all these back on, but if you put the level meter at the end of the plugins, then it's affected by all the plugins, so it's not telling you exactly what just this pure signal is anymore. But you'll want that at the end when you're adding plugins on later, okay, one at a time. And I'll have another video next. My next video should be on how to use a level meter when adding plugins onto it, okay? So let me show you the bass real quick and see where I was at with my bass guitar. Okay, let's go put the level meter at the beginning on the bass guitar. Okay, let's do that, and then click that so we can see that. There it is. There it is. Jump down to 86. That's about as loud as it gets, because I've already been through this whole track. Okay. So, and what I like to do is, when I'm first laying down, so I don't do the whole track and go, oh wow, it jumped down to -2 or something, but I thought it was good the whole time. What I'll do is I'll start laying down the track, and I'll have this up. I'll record a little bit of the track, and I'll play it as hard and strum exactly how I'm going to do it when I'm recording, and I'll do like a little piece of all the main parts of the song, especially where it's going to be the loudest in the song, and I'll record that real quick. Then I'll hit playback and see if how loud it jumps up to. And if it's good in a good sweet spot there between -9, -10, and -6, then I'm golden. And then I'm like, okay, then I record the whole track, and then I'll listen to the whole track at the end and see, make sure it didn't get too hot, because sometimes you naturally just start playing heavier for some reason, or quieter, you know. So, but that's just a good idea, so you don't have to do the whole track every time and go, oh, it's way too loud, it's way too quiet, and redo it again. Okay. But just don't get hung up on like trying to get as close as -6 as possible. I used to do that, and it wasn't explained right to me anyways. Like, so when I first learned, like, so I was trying to get it right at -6, and then you start playing softer and heavier at certain parts just to keep it at -6, and then you sound like a robot because you have no fluctuation in your music, and it throws you off. So just make sure it's anywhere, like I said, between -9, -10, and -6. That area is good for your peak anyways, okay? So that's a level meter. That's how it's used. This is the one I use the most often, and I use Peak and RMS. In the next video, like I said, I'm going to show you guys how to add all these plugins and how to use the level meter for each plugin to make sure it reacts that good signal right, okay? And then you add each plugin on and make sure the signal doesn't get too hot when you get at the end of the plugins, because then it will digitally store it and it'll clip off from being too loud that way with all the plugins on. So you got to learn how to like use the output, the main output gain and stuff like that on all your plugins, and like I said, you'll use your level meter all day long in all your recordings. If you're doing a lot of, until you do master track processing and all that stuff and editing and stuff, most likely MIDI instruments and stuff, you're not going to use it that much until the end, because MIDI instruments come basically, the stock in Logic Pro come already at a good level. Please leave some comments. Is there anything you'd like I didn't touch on, you'd like me to touch on later? Any videos that you'd like me to make? Hit me up. Let me know. Let me know what you guys think. I'm Jeremy Hawes. I'll see you guys on the flip side. Don't do anything I would do that leaves it wide open. Ow! I can feel it.